let's start. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all to this webinar on research and dissemination of results and improving researchers' visibility. And our resource person is Professor Jagat Manatunga. He's well known in academic circles. Let me give a brief introduction of Professor Manatunga. He's a professor attached to the Department of Civil Engineering, University of Moratuwa. He got his bachelor's degree with first class honors from Moratuwa University. Then he went to Imperial College, University of London, where he obtained a master's and a diploma in environmental technology. His doctorate is from Saitama University, Japan. He's a chartered engineer, a member of Institute of Environmental Professionals in Sri Lanka, and a past finalist of the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants UK, known as CIMA. He is currently the editor of annual transactions of the ISL and a member of the editorial boards of Journal of the National Science Foundation and the ISL. I know in addition, he has extensive experience handling many international journals, supporting the editors, right? His research profile is amazing. He has over 75 papers in international index journals, out of which 60 are indexed in Science Citation Index and or Science Citation Index Expanded, known as SCI, SCIE. In addition, he has 8 book chapters, 10 research monographs, and has presented more than 200 papers in different symposia. He has received many awards, to name a few: several outstanding research awards from University of Moratuwa and presidential awards for research. And also he obtained the prestigious CVCD Excellence Award in 2020 for the most outstanding senior researcher in technology and related sciences, including engineering, architecture, quantitative surveying, and information technology. His research interests and expertise include water and wastewater technologies, ecological engineering, and pollution control. Professor Manatunga, over to you without taking much time to share your ideas, expertise on this timely topic on how to disseminate your research findings while not getting trapped or tackled by fake or predatory or clone journals. Okay, over to you.
Thank you, Professor. I'm in fact a bit embarrassing to hear all those introductions, but I don't know where you found all of them. Thank you very much, Professor Ayanta, for your kind introduction. Let me start with some caution, but we were expecting some power outages this evening, but still we have power. In case there's a power interruption, please stay back. I will connect again using my dongle, the mobile devices. So if there are any interruptions in between, please stay back. I will connect as quickly as I can. So the topic that has been posed on me is I think my
Yes, we can see you. Yes. We can see the slide and it's audible. No issue.
It's audible, right? Okay,
yeah.
right. Okay. So I have a long presentation for today, but if I'm dragging on, please give me a warning sign, Professor Ayantha. Research dissemination of results and improving visibility. I will very briefly give you the outline, which the outline has been prepared by, I think, the LNT committee and was given to me as the TOR for the presentation today. So this is the lineup that you can expect from my presentation. But some points are overemphasized, but some are not very well covered because we have a very limited time to cover all these topics. So I'm not taking equal allocation of time for these 7 topics. I will try to pay more attention on things which I think are more important for our discussion today. First, I will just outline, just say a few words about what is research and who is a researcher, and then the importance of dissemination of findings and finding a suitable platform to publish, genuine journals against predatory or clone journals, journal metrics and what they say, and how to improve visibility and networking, and continuing professional development of research and service to the scientific community, which I have altogether ignored the last part because during our discussion, we will be touching upon the last point from say as an outline. The first slide here, what is research? Now, when I wanted to define the word research, I found that in the Oxford Dictionary, I found that research has been derived from an old French word. The old French word, the research here, I don't know how to pronounce it, but it is written as it is here. It's a compound word connecting two phrases, re and searcher, right? Searcher means search, and when you put re here, it means research, search, and research, right? You search something and you research the same thing again and again, right? So the Middle French, after the evolution of the phrases, the research means to go about seeking, and it literally the literal translation is to investigate thoroughly. So when you combine both the phrases, it's to search, research, and to investigate thoroughly, which will give you an idea of what research is all about. Now, research is the creation of new knowledge. This is very important, creation of new knowledge and or the use of existing knowledge in a new and creative way so as to generate new concepts, methodologies, and understandings, right? So there are two parts of it. Either it's creation of new knowledge or the use of existing knowledge in a new and creative way so as to generate new concepts, methodologies, and understandings. Can you see the slides? Was Ayantha?
Yeah, no issue. I replied. I can see. Hope.
Yeah, because there's a message.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, we can see. No issue. Right. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Now there are two things: creation of new knowledge and use of existing knowledge, right? In a way to create new concepts, methodologies, and understandings. And the creation of new knowledge or use of existing knowledge in a way that we generate new concepts, methodologies, and understandings, it includes synthesis and analysis of previous research to the extent that it leads to new and creative outcomes. So in the process of your research, you need to have thorough knowledge of what has already been done, the previous research. You synthesize and analyze what has already been done to find the gap between what is already known and what should be done to create new knowledge, right? That is what we call the research gap, the research need, without which there cannot be any research as such, right? Now, in most cases, the technical experts, professionals, they sometimes carry out project work and think that it is research. Sometimes there's confusion between what is research and what is project work, what is technical work, right? So you have to synthesize and analyze previous research to identify the gap between what is already known and what has to be done to create new knowledge, right? So that identification of the gap is very important to set your objectives to go about what you are planning to do, right? Now, these two definitions is consistent with the broad notion of research and development as comprising of creative work undertaken on a systematic basis. Systematic basis is very important. Without a systematic basis, you cannot put down a proper methodology to describe what you have done, right? So yeah, the objective would be to increase the stock of knowledge. Increase the stock of knowledge. That is, by creating new knowledge, you are trying to fill the gap that you have identified as the research need that you have, from the work that you propose to do. And anybody, the researcher himself or any other persons can use this stock of knowledge that has been created as new knowledge to devise new applications. And these applications can be basic applications, can be that what we call applied sciences, applied concepts that we sometimes talk of, basic research and applied research. Everything falls into the category of creation of new knowledge. Now, there have been many prominent people. They have touched upon the concept of research, and they have stated there are quotations which have deep meanings. Isaac Newton had once said, I have taken all these from the internet. If I have seen further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants. Right? This is. I mean, you have to. If you have to see further, you have to go by what is already being done. Right? Past knowledge is important to carry on with the present work. Right? So that is. I interpret this as this is what I understand by this particular quotation. Right? You have to. Say, understand, synthesize the work, the knowledge that is already known, and then build upon that, make it the strength of what you are planning to do. In Albert Einstein, in two occasions, he had said that the whole of science is nothing more than a refinement of everyday thinking. Now, everyday thinking is what is available as free. The knowledge that has been accumulated over millennia, over centuries, over years, right? And you have to refine it. That is what you input is, right? So this is where you have to think of a good methodology to do the research. Then Albert Einstein again, if he knew what it was we were doing, it would not be called research, would it? That is a creation of new knowledge, right? Not repeating what is already being done, what is already known, not duplicating what is already known, right? So focus on what is new. That is sometimes researchers call the originality of the research that you are doing, right? And the last quotation here, research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think what nobody else has thought, right? This is what your contribution would be to the discussion of your results, right? you have to think beyond what others would see. That contributes to the originality of what you are doing, right? You have to think beyond what others would be thinking, right? So that is where you create new knowledge, and your contribution to the advancement of the science or the field of study. Let us see two most prestigious universities who are engaged in research, MIT. How have they defined research, right? This is their research, the web page outlining their research, scientific breakthroughs and technological advances. This is what they are aiming at. They are aiming at scientific breakthroughs and technological advances. Please have a look at the first sentence written here. MIT's commitment to marrying education with the creation of knowledge provides a fertile setting for research that has spawned a host of scientific breakthroughs and technological advances. Can you see these very, very beautiful words here? Commitment to marrying education with the creation of knowledge, right? You need to have some education. You need to have background. You have to have a training to create new knowledge. That is marrying education with creation of knowledge, which will provide a fertile setting for research, right? When education and the creation of knowledge are married, when they come together, it sets a fertile setting for research. Right? So you need to have a training to conduct research, and you're conducting research would create new knowledge. This creation of new knowledge is emphasized here. Right? Then let us go to the Stanford University's research page. Now they also say that from Nobel Prize winners to undergraduates. Now, this is the research community. Now this might be at a certain level, and Nobel Prize winners might be at the highest level, right? But wherever they are all members of the research community. Now they are all engaged in the creation of knowledge. Right? So the creation of knowledge is the focus of research. That is the very meaning of doing research, to create new knowledge. So who is a researcher? The same things that I would not repeat. A researcher is somebody who performs research independently, the search for knowledge, or in general, or in a systematic investigation to establish facts. So the researcher would always focus on systematic investigation to establish facts. The research, these are definitions which I took from different sources, but I edited it to suit the presentation. The researcher is a person with accurate and specific experience, education, qualifications, skills, and training to complete research. That is what the MIT said, that education is the prior training, so that the researcher himself has the ability to do the research, right? Now this, the experience or education, qualifications, skills, and training, I mean, they're all specific. Now, I mean, they are very relative. Don't ever expect that you need to have a PhD or you need to have a postdoctoral experience to do research. No, it's not. Probably, I know some people who have come up with very good research ideas who might have no much formal education as such. I don't ever expect that the qualifications, the degree or the level of education would define the ability of a person, right? So it comes from nurturing and also the nature of education that you get. So nurture and nurturing, and the nature of education both would make a person a good researcher. In the Princeton review also defines a researcher as a person who collects, organizes, and analyzes and interprets data. This gives the process of the research: collect, organize, analyze, and interpret data. Interpret data and opinions to explore issues, solve problems, and predict trends. So this it's a very compact statement which gives the research process itself and what you can expect from productive research program. So becoming a researcher, now we all try to, our attempt would be to become, not to become a researcher, but to become a better researcher, right? So your aim should be to find out something that we don't know, or to find out more on what we already know. That is the progression of knowledge, right? I mean, not always that you are creating not new ideas or new original ideas, but even you contribute to the propagation or expansion of knowledge. Even that is something that is original, right? Now you should be asking what and who, but also you have to ask why. Why? Asking why is the basis for doing research, right? Why do I do this research? Why? You have to ask that particular question, why, right? Then after that, you can, what should I do? Whom should I contact? There can be various phrases coming after that, but the key, the core phrase here would be to ask why, right? Now, going beyond the initial discussion, what research is and what researchers are, I mean, the discussion might not be pertinent to the discussion very much, but as an introduction, I gave you those my ideas, which I mostly got from various sources. And now let's start the next step of the today's discussion: importance of dissemination of findings. Now, why do we want to publish? Why do we need to disseminate the findings? Why do we want to publish our research? Right now, publishing your work is vital for success and advancement. You all know that no publication, no project. The evidence that you have of a successful project, a research project, would be a publication. Even for a technical project, you need to have a project report, without which, or a project design compendium, or whatever the written work that you present would give others an idea that you have done something, right? For research, you need to have publications. These publications can be research compendiums, monographs, journal papers, conference presentations, even discussion papers, book chapters, books, or whatever that you develop, right? You don't have to come up with say long pieces of writing, but you can have a couple of slides developed based on your results, right? And in most conferences, you may have seen posters, right? So you put everything in one poster to tell others what you have done, right? And the second, no publication, no promotion. Now, for academics, even for researchers, no publication means that you don't have credible any evidence to prove that you have been successful in finding, say contributing to the advancement of your particular field of study, particular field, right? For students, for research students, no publication means that no graduation. Very unfortunate. And also, no publication means that you can't apply for funding, because all the funding agencies, most of them, they look for your publication records, previous records. Not many funding agencies would like to provide funding for people who don't have a good publication record, right? Now, publication record is the only evidence that you can put forward to say that you are somebody that is very productive, that you have done something in the past. So please rely on me. Please fund what I am proposing to do. The success rate would be say very positive, and so on. Right? So your publication record would provide a good basis for funding agencies to decide whether to fund your further research or not, right? So these three are the things that came to my mind. So wherever you are in this list, I think these three might be applicable for most of us who are here in this forum today. So it's so you need to publish, without which yes, I mean the work that you have already done or planning to do or you are doing might not be say conveyed to the others, right? You have to convey the message. You have to say tell others what you have done. The act of putting your research to paper will help you clarify your goals for the research, and it will help you in reviewing and interpreting your own data and force you to compare your work with that of the others, right? So you can interpret your own data, and you need to compare your work with that of the others to show that what you have achieved has some substance in it, right? And now the paper, once you prepare the paper, you send that for peer reviews. Yeah, peer reviews would give you an importance, would give you important feedback on the validity of your approach, right? So peer review is validation of your research, and the peer review is so important to make your paper accepted by publishing media, right? And also the peer review will give you certain suggestions, feedback on what you have done, and you can revise, you can carry on with your research, you can make the next step, you can advance and interpret your work accordingly. Now, dissemination of findings is all about communicating the information that you have found, which will help other researchers advance their work, right? It's that you are sharing your work, you are sharing what you have experienced, what you think would be the new knowledge, what you think is your contribution to the new knowledge. You share it with others, so that expecting that others also will advance, others will also contribute to the body of knowledge that exists in your field. So then it will become a collective effort that you are part of it. You share your experiences with others, expecting that others will also join in the collective effort of moving forward with new knowledge in your field of study. And writing and publishing puts your research into larger context, and others can find what you have done, whether you know those people or not, whether they are connected with you or not, because publications might reach, say, other research communities which you might not have any connections with. So therefore, it gives you publicity of what you have already been, what you are doing, what you have already done, and what you are expected to do in the future. Because in research papers, you might be discussing what next, right? And also your published paper can help in the public understanding of a research question, because research, when they understand the research question, they also can come up with new ideas, right? So once you very clearly present your research question, others also can contribute to expand it further. That is how you create new knowledge, right? Exposing what you have done, exposing what you have identified as the research gap, because there can be dimensions where you might not see, even though you are knowledgeable, even though you are an experienced researcher. There are things you might miss, right? So others can come in, others can contribute, others can join in the joint effort of doing research, right? So having a robust body of published works help advance your career as you are considered for academic appointments and promotions, the same thing that we have been And publishing helps establish you as an expert in your field of knowledge. So this is, I mean, little by little, your aspirations might be to become an expert in the field, to establish as an expert. And the last one, the funding agencies might also need you to disseminate your results, peer-reviewed publications, and peer-reviewed publications will be your evidence to tell the funding agencies that you have done something. But this publishing has created some negative impacts on the research communities, right? Which is popularly referred to as publish or perish. While writing for scholarly publications is considered a crucial dimension of academic work, the publish or perish system in our field has increasingly caused anxiety and induced stress among not only young academics but also because everybody is pressurized. They are increasingly pressurized to publish more and more, which has caused anxiety and induced stress, right? Publish or perish is a saying describing the pressure to publish academic work in order to succeed, right? Institutional pressure is generally the strongest in research institutions and universities because their mandate is to have certain number of publications every year. They expect the researchers to achieve that, whether funding is provided or not, whether the time limits are say achievable or not, they are expected to contribute to the research outcomes, right? So this pressure to publish might lead to an environment which will be a contributing factor to the replication crisis. The researchers might not look at the quality of the paper. They might look at the number of papers. Instead of looking at the quality, they might be looking at replicating the efforts and try to publish more number of papers than publishing good quality papers, right? So the pressure to publish has been cited as a cause of poor work being submitted to academic journals. That is becoming a problem day by day, but things are getting better sometimes, I feel. Now, this is an alarming statement that was quoted by a very well-known ecological researcher, Hannah Arendt. This business of publish or perish has been a catastrophe. People write things which should never have been written and which should never be printed. Nobody's interested. But for them to graduate, keep their jobs and get the proper promotion, they have got to do it. It demeans the whole of intellectual life. So when the researchers are pressurized to do research, then their output might not be the one that we expect from real researchers. So always try, when you are doing research, always try not to pressurize yourself too much. If you are under pressure, your output might be affected negatively, right? Now, with the pressure to publish, researchers are cranking out more articles than ever. There are about 30,000 scientific journals, 2 million articles published annually, which means that the research dilutes to a large extent. The quality is compromised, right? So it is not good for science as well as for researchers' career, right? Now, sometimes we refer to that as salami publishing, right? You try to divide your research into thin slices like cutting salami and publish as many papers as possible. One study, maybe 4 papers. So if you think that way, I mean, if you publish one paper out of one study, it might have a different quality, different appeal from the research community. But if you divide that into 4, these 4 papers put together would not be equivalent to one good quality paper that if you produce one paper, right? So when you publish your research, always think in terms of quality than in terms of numbers. right? So that is very, very important message that I want to give you. But now things are, I think, getting better because the present community, research community, they understand the consequences of publish and perish, and they might not be looking at the numbers if they are not pressurized, say unnecessarily. They always now I think that the tendency is to look at the good quality research outputs as being focused of many, not to publish low quality papers and perish. Now the publish or perish has now been translated to a better phrase, publish and perish. If you publish low quality papers, still you publish, but still you perish, right? So you can't escape perishing if you publish low quality papers. So if you publish, always go for high quality papers, and you will never perish. You will prosper instead of perishing, right? So you publish high quality papers and you prosper, right? So pay attention on publishing good quality papers, then as many papers as possible, right? The value of published work often determined by the prestige of the academic journal that is published in. So if you are able to choose a good journal, a prestigious journal to publish your research, then you are through, right? You can guarantee that your publication is high quality, and you can guarantee even with a few numbers than say large number of low quality papers, that you can survive, that you can prosper within the research circles. Now this is the dilemma of I mean, there can be people who are not successful, can perish. Now you don't have to worry too much about it, right? If somebody cannot generate ideas, they will perish, they will leave, right? If even though they have ideas, if they are not capable of doing proper research, they will leave or perish. But even though if they do the research well, if they cannot write well, this is very important. You need to be a good writer, without which you can't publish. Even though you have good research outcomes, if you cannot write properly, then you are doomed. You are at the loser's end, right? So then, if you can't write, you have to leave. And even if you write, if your paper is not accepted, again you will perish. You have to leave. But if you publish, again you come back at the beginning as an experienced researcher. This is you are now coming back as an experienced researcher, right? Most cases you can bypass this. You can bypass this. You will reach here in no time, right? The third cycle, you will very fast move along the line, and you will keep repeating, and your research profile will get accumulated with good quality research. Now, this is an outcome of a survey done in the UK. They have obtained responses from natural science-based, health-based researchers, and say a great number of the respondents say that they want to communicate results to the peers. That's why they do research and publish. And then the advancement of career, including graduation, comes next. The personal prestige, gain funding, and the financial rewards are the least encouraging for them. So this is very say encouraging to see that they want to share their results. That's why they publish. Then comes their aspirations to get promoted or to graduate. Right? This is a very encouraging fact. Right? And another similar outcome of a questionnaire, a survey. This survey has been done in 2010, a little while back. Say consisting of 485 researchers. They also say that great majority say that they want to raise awareness of their findings. That's why they want to publish, influence policy, influence practice, and so on. right? So their attraction to funding and their promotion, other needs comes next, right? And their channels of publications would be the great majority of them prefer to publish their research findings in journals. Then comes presentations or conference presentations. So it's always now this is encouraging to see that even though the researchers have certain pressure to publish, they prefer to publish to raise awareness of their findings, to disseminate their findings, to tell others what you have achieved, and they prefer to publish in academic journals and then conferences. So that is very encouraging. So it is now high time for us to see how to choose the platform for our publications, right? So that is the main theme of our study. Now, therefore, now with that new trends in the research community, we need to correct these notions. Everybody is writing, nobody is reading. Everybody is writing for nobody. I mean, you don't have to worry too much about this because these are all stale statements. Academics are spending hundreds of hours of their time, and their papers gets published, but the companies, publishing companies, get all the benefit out of the publications. The pressure to produce and grow is huge, both in academia and in the publishing industry. This undermines quality and the university's ability to serve the public good. Now, all these are now you can dismiss them with the correct attitude, right? If ever we look at doing research and publishing in a negative way, we get trapped in these notions, right? Don't get trapped in these notions. Always think positively. You will not lose, right? So therefore, a transition in science is needed to restore quality, trust, a culture of co-learning, peer-to-peer feedback, and a dialogue, and then to unlock the power of science in creating more sustainable world. That's why the concepts of free research, free science platforms have arrived, which we will discuss a little later, right? So peer reviewing, the peer review process, any researcher would accept that that contributes positively to what we do. The contribution would be sharpened. It would be positively benefited by the review process. Right now, this is but sometimes researchers, especially students, see that the review process is something similar to a process which is depicted in this picture, but don't ever think that it is something, some impediment of an obstruction to what you are planning to do, but always think that the review process is something that would make your research sharpen more, would add value to what you are doing, and will positively contribute to refining what you want to tell others. Now, the pertinent question now is to see where to publish your research, right? Now, you have to make sure that whether you are submitting your research to a trusted publisher, right? Who are these trusted publishers? How can you be sure the publisher you are considering is the right one for your research? More research is being published worldwide. New publishers are launched every week. Many researchers have concerns about predatory publishing. What is predatory publishing? It can be challenging to find up-to-date guidance when choosing where to publish. Is there any help that we can make use of to find the proper journal? These are some of the things that we will be discussing. Right? Now, the first thing that we need to understand is what the predatory publishers are, what the predatory journals are. Predatory journals are those. Now, this is a definition given in one of the prominent websites that I searched. Predatory publishers or journals are those which charge authors a fee for publication with no intention of providing the expected services. We expect the publisher to provide us a particular service, that is the peer review process, and to make sure that the paper is disseminated to proper audiences. Right now, these predatory publishers, they don't do either. Right, their editorial and the peer review would not be available for the researcher, or they just rush through it, and without any peer review process being done, and the papers that they publish will not be provided a good platform so that others can find your paper. The visibility is very low, right? So when you expect the publisher to provide both, to provide a proper peer review process and a good editorial policy, and then to make the research visible to the others, then you are at the loser's end, right? Charging fees is a legitimate business model now. Most of the journals nowadays, especially these open source journals, they charge a publication fee. That's okay, but they have to provide a publishing service in return, right? The concept of predatory journals has many names. Sometimes they call fake journals, questionable journals, illegitimate journals, deceptive journals, dark journals, journals operating in bad faith, and so on. Right? But it's sometimes a bit difficult to see how to detect what these predatory journals are, because sometimes some journal publishers, when they operate in a small scale, they might not have a good editorial and technical standards, which doesn't mean that they are doing anything wrong, right? Say, for example, if you compare the publishing agencies in Sri Lanka, the ISL journal, JNSF journal, or journals published by universities or research institutions, you can't compare the editorial process and their technical standards with, say, Elsevier or Springer or Wiley or say Oxford University Press or any of those giants, right? But still, they are good platforms to publish, but and therefore you have to be very careful to choose between these weak editorial platforms, which do not mean anything related to predatory publishing, right? Therefore, you have to make sure that you identify who predatory publishers are. Now, these are some things that you have to watch out for, right? A predatory journal, a journal title can be easily confused with another journal, right? They sometimes have very similar journal titles, or they have very long journal titles or very general journal titles without having a very distinct journal title, right? Maybe sometimes some journals might say journal of civil engineering or some journal of construction. It's very general without having any distinct focus area for the research, right? They might have very wide scope. They might display very unofficial impact factors. We will come on to these impact factors later. They claim false claims of being indexed in major services like PubMed or DOAJ. We will come on to this again later. And there's no publisher address or contact information. There's no clear ownership of the journal. Spams researchers with many emails inviting submissions. I mean, usually the normal practice is that the journals are they might not say call for papers unless otherwise they have a specific reason for doing that. Right? Even if they call for papers, they might circulate emails among the very closed community, research community. It's not in the general platforms or general media. they advertise very fast times for submission and to publication, because they can do so because they don't do any peer review. They can publish very fast. But believe me, no journal can guarantee, the publication time, unless otherwise they have something magic to be done. And sometimes they publish out of scope articles. They publish nonsense articles without any relevancy. They have poor or non-existing editing articles. And if you just download one or two articles, you will instantly realize that very poor grammar, spelling mistakes, syntax errors, style errors, and so on. And they hide information on charges, no editorial board listed, or they have too many editors from different countries, or from the same country, or different specializations, and so on. So there are so many things that you have to look at when to identify whether the journals are predatory or not. Going away from journals, nowadays predatory conferences are mushrooming, right? Now the COVID, the last 2 years when we had the COVID problem, it has mushroomed predatory conferences. Predatory conferences, mostly virtual conferences, right? So they charge very small amounts of money for organizing these conferences and for participating, because you participate virtually. You don't you have to go abroad for international conferences, for example. You save a lot of money, and thinking that it's cheap for you to pay maybe $50 or $75 for a paper. And these the conference officers might be just one person having a computer with him, creating web pages and providing Zoom linkages, and then just having a conference without an editorial board, without any peer reviews, even without any proper audiences, right? So don't, when you nowadays, when you participate in online virtual conferences, so make sure that the conference organizers are credible academic societies or other known scholar associations, scholar organizations that you know, or else you go by recommendations from experienced researchers, right? So predatory journals are a bit difficult to detect, but predatory conferences you can easily detect. But nowadays, when you are under pressure to publish, sometimes even paying $50 or $75 would not mean anything to you, because these conference organizers might provide you with a wonderful certificate saying that it's a peer-reviewed conference, and so on and so forth, right? And the third kind of trap that you might fall into would be the clone journals. It's so difficult to find clone journals. Clone journals are journals hijacked, right? So journal cloning is journal hijacking. That is among the latest additions to the growing pool of scholarly publishing fraud. It's so difficult because these clone journals steal the identity of legitimate journals by copying their name, ISSN, and other metadata, and they create a clone website. And a layperson, even an experienced researcher might find it difficult to distinguish that bogus website from the authentic one. Right? Sometimes these clone journals, what they want to do is brand jacking. It's brand jacking is it's nothing new to these hijacking or say intellectual theft. But this journal cloning or journal hijacking is something that is very disturbing nowadays. Now, these hijackers, they target journals for which the authentic websites are non-existent, difficult to find. Usually, non-English journals run by small publishers are the prime targets of them, because these large journal publication platforms or organizations or companies, they are well equipped for these, say, hijackers, right? But these small-time website owners might be the most vulnerable, and the poor researchers, they fall into these traps, and they pay money for publications, and it will be too late when they realize that their money is wasted, and also when they realize that their publication has gone into say it's now considered rubbish, right? So negative impacts of submissions to predatory affluent journals, you lose money and you lose time, right? And once the research community knows that you have published in these clone journals or predatory journals, or these say bogus conferences, then your publication record is contaminated, right? So your reputation will also be tarnished, right? Because once you publish in a predatory journal, you can't erase that journal entry from the list of publications, because somebody can detect your publication list and would pinpoint that you have published in predatory journals, and such tarnished reputation cannot be put back, and please be careful when you select the journal, right? So list of predatory journals, now there are ways to detect what these predatory journals are. One way is to, now this is the first list that was created by a person called Beer. You can visit this website. I will just stop sharing this, and I will share the website. So this is the Beer's list for potential publishers. You can see that there's a long list of publishers who are considered to be predatory, right? Because now this is the first caution that you can get when, if the journal is if the publisher is listed in the Beer's list, there's a high chance that the publisher is a predatory publisher. No proper review process, no editorial ethics, and your article will be published but not be placed in any say visible platforms, right? So there's a long list of publishers. You can see hundreds of publishers listed here, right? I think more than 300 publishers are listed here. And then you can visit the standalone journals also. There are a long list of journals listed here. So whenever you want to publish, please have a look at this list and see whether the journal, first see whether the publisher is listed under the list, and then see whether the journal is listed under the Beer's list, right? And all these, this is hyperlinked to their journal web pages, so you can have a look at it. And then there's a third list that you have to avoid is the vanity press. Vanity press is other the publishers again who publish say book chapters and books, right, without paying any money, without editing, just they publish whatever that you submit, right? So always avoid the publishers which are listed in the Beer's list. Always avoid the journals which are listed in the Beer's list, and always avoid publishing organizations, publishing houses which are listed as the vanity press, right? Say now very can you see this vanity press list?
Yes, we can.
All right, okay. Now, say experienced researchers might know that most of these, I mean, you get emails from them very regularly. Say Lampert Academic Publishing, Noah Science Publishers, say EU Research. I mean, as soon as you publish a conference paper or a refereed conference paper or a refereed journal paper, after after a couple of months, they contact you. They list down the title of your article and ask you to submit a book chapter, or asking if you publish a research monograph or somewhere, they ask you to publish a book, right? So whenever you publish the article or a book, now most of the inexperienced researchers, they fall into this trap, right? I mean, there's no, I mean, you don't lose anything. You just submit this, but you don't gain anything. And as I told you before, when your list is contaminated, when your list has publications by these publication houses, then the technical term that you use is your list is contaminated. You can't remove that contamination. It's a permanent contamination, right? So don't fall into pitfalls. Don't avoid the publishers, journals, and the vanity press houses which are listed in the bears list. Then you have another list called this open access journals. Let me share that as well. I can't see that. Just a moment. Right, and now you can, I have given the web link to this also, open access journals. This also has a long list of predatory journals updated to 2022. Now researchers, they dump their research and the publisher will make money. And this is, I mean, the research might not gain anything, right? And there's a long list of journals here. You just click on, say, it's arranged in alphabetical order. There are hundreds of journals listed here. For example, starting with A, you have, say, all these journal entries here. Even though they say American Journal of Essential Oils, there, I mean, this word American may have been deliberately put, say they have adopted it just to make sure that, to make that attractive to inexperienced researchers, right? So have a look at this list also whenever you want to make sure that whether the article, so the journal is predatory or not, right? So coming back again to the presentation. Now those are the lists that I wanted to show you. Bears list and then open access journals. I have given you the journal web links. You can always copy this and please have a look at these lists from time to time, which will give you a good understanding of the journals, whether they are predatory or not, right? And again, you can now, this is a very very useful say there's a organization which has come up in 2012 which is called Think, Check, Submit. Right? Think, check, submit. You have to first think where to submit, check the credentials of the journal or the book chapter book, and then submit, right? So this think, check, and submit is an organization which guides you to to select journal platform, right? So it is it has it is an organization which has contribution from so many other organizations. Now, Think, Check, Submit, which it helps researchers identify trusted journals and publishers for their research through a range of tools and practical resources. This international trust-check initiative aims to educate researchers, promote integrity, and build trust in credible research publications. Right now, this Think, Check, Submit has been founded by DOAJ, that is the Directory of Open Source Journals, DOAJ, and it has been established in 2012 to 2015, and this is one of the best tools that you can use to see whether the journal that you are planning to submit is authentic or not, right? So it is the main aim is to identify trusted publishers for your research. You have book chapters. You have one criteria for book chapters and one criteria for journals. Think, are you submitting your research to a trusted journal or a publisher? Is it the right journal or the book for your work? Think. Then check. Use our checklist to access the journal or publisher. Right? Just check. And then submit. Only if you can answer yes to the questions on our checklist, then it's safe for you to submit, right? Say for example, for journals, this is the checklist that they have provided, right? You have to think. More research is being published worldwide. New publishers are launched every week. Many researchers have concerns about predated publishing. It can be challenging to find the up-to-date guidance when choosing the publishing. Now check. Now these are the checks that you have to do. Reference this list for your concern. Do you or your colleagues know about the journal? Have you read any articles in the journal? Yes or no? If yes, you just click on it. Is it easy to discover the latest papers in the journal? If you do a say online search, whether you can find the papers easily, say journal page or even other databases. If yes, you just click it. Name the journal. Name of the journal, whether it is confusing or whether it has a distinct name. Can you cross-check with information about the journal in the ISSN portal? ISSN portal, you have a link here. You have to go and see whether it has an ISSN number, right? So if they are yes, you click on them and see whether you can go forward. Can you easily identify and contact the publisher? Is the publisher's name clearly displayed? Can you contact the publisher by telephone, email, or post? Is the journal clear about the type of peer review users? Now, peer review process is so important. The journal or the book or whatever that you want to publish should give a comprehensive description about the peer review process. And you answer all these questions. Are the articles indexed or archived in dedicated services, right? So indexing and archiving is very important, right? Without which your articles will not have any visibility, right? Is it clear what fees will be charged? Are the guidelines provided for authors or publishers the website, right? Whether it's an open access journal, whether it has a clear license policy, whether what are the preferred licenses and so on. So you have a long list of, and this is again very important. Do they belong to Committee of Publication of Ethics? This scope is very important. I will give you details of that scope, because if the journal is a member of the COPE, Committee on Publication Ethics, then it gives a very good standing for that particular journal. If the journal is in the Directory of Open Access Journals or DOAJ, yes, it's a very credible journal. If it is listed in Open Access Scholarly Publishers Association or OASPA, then it's a very credible journal, right? Is a journal hosted in one of the INSP's journal online platforms? Now, all these have hyperlinks attached to it. You can click on them and have a look at those, right? So this is these are the industry recognition that the journal gets from the publication industry, right? So you have to have, now all these have to have years, but here you can have years for some of these, right? and then you submit, and they will provide you with an assessment of that particular journal, right? So because you don't have to identify the journal by its name, but if you can answer to most of these questions, then you are in safe hands. Yes, you can go ahead and submit your paper. Similar, there is a similar criteria for book chapters as well. If you go to book chapters, again, there's another I don't have hyperlink with me. I'm sorry. Yeah, I have given you the links for you to have a look. Please have a look at them. There's another checklist to select books and book chapters also, right? So try to answer these questions and to see whether you can see the slides again, right? To see whether you can pick that journal for publications, right? So this is a very useful website. Please have a look at this website when you have time. And then the COPE that I was referring to you about, say this COPE is a committee is committed to educating and supporting editors, publishers, and those involved in the publication of ethics. Now, if a journal is a member of COPE, then now I'm not giving you details of this. The COPE provides with a long lists of ethical toolkits for an editorial office to oblige with, to follow, so that they can adopt a good publishing culture, right? So the COPE will audit the activities of that particular journal from time to time, and then they will provide the membership on a renewal basis, right? There's a payment involved in the membership, but if any journalist is a member of COPE, then you can be certain that the journal has a good standing, right? Now these are some of the guidelines that the journal has to abide by, conform with. If it is to make sure that they get the COPE membership. They have to have a clear policy on allegations of misconduct, authorship and contributorship, complaints and appeals, data and reproducibility, ethical oversight, intellectual property, journal management, peer review process, and post-publication discussions. So the journal has to have all these in place to make sure that they have the membership of the COPE, without which they don't get the membership. If they have the membership, you are certain that the journal has a very high standing, right? So they always emphasize on peer review processes, and for peer review processes, the journals are given a very clear guideline, and they have to abide by certain policies, and the key points are listed here, which I just skip this because it is not important, but when you have time, please have a look at it. And the journals, their peer review policy has to abide by all these points if they want to become a member of the COPE. So the peer review process is again described. Please have a look at these ethical guidelines for peer reviews. I have given, I will share the slides with you together with these hyperlinks. Please have a look at that particular document when you have time, right? And now those are the material that we have to select a good journal. Look at the BIAS list, look at the Open Journals list, and then look at Think, Check, and Submit, and check whether the journal is a member of Scope, right? So those are the essential things that you need to do to see whether the journal is authentic or not, right? Now, then you have to the second step would be to now once you are certain that the journal is a credible journal, then you would want to have a look at the journal metrics. Journal metrics is the deciding criteria which gives you an idea of whether you can achieve your goals of getting the better reach of your research, whether the journal will give you good visibility for your research, good dissemination for your research, and whether the journal is in a position to recognize your research, and whether your impact of your research will be felt by the research community, right? So once you select a credible journal, then you have to check the journal metrics to see the standing of the journal, to evaluate its standing among other journals in the same field, right? So there are two types of metrics that you can have a look. Now, to select the journal, you have to go by the journal metrics. But if you want to say browse through a collection of articles for say review of articles, for review of literature, for example, you might want to go through article metrics. Journal metrics, there are lots of journal metrics that we make use of. I will not go into much details of this because I have given the web links here. One is the journal impact factor. It is defined, or journal impact factor is calculated. It's mainly a Clarivate analytics metrics. It sums all the citations received in a given year of a journal for previous 2 years of publication, right? And divided by a sum of citable publications in the previous 2 years. Right? So it's you don't have to have a knowledge of what they are doing, but journal impact factor is it's based on the citations that we have already got. Right? Similarly, a 5-year journal impact, this is for 2 years, and this is for 5 years. And then you have journal citation indicators, all Clarivate Web of Science indicators, and then you have the Scopus, CiteSco, and SNIP. CiteSco is something different. CiteSco gives you say it calculates the number of citations of documents by a journal over 4 years, immediately from the date that you are thinking of, right? So I mean they are all connected, but their method of calculation is different, and their pool of journals are different. That's why they are not the same. And with compared to CiteSco, this SNIP, or the source normalized impact factor, is a different calculation where say you can compare the SNIP say among different fields of journals, right? Not within the same journal. CiteSco is to compare journals within the same field. But if you want to compare, say if you want to evaluate researchers based on their output from different fields, then you make use of these metrics called SNIP, right? So you have different types of journal matrices that you can make use of to select the journals. Right now, there's another declaration called San Francisco Declaration on Research Assessment, which is called DORA. And this DORA, now, whenever the journal is listed under this particular declaration, then you can be certain that their impact factor calculation has been done according to a certain accepted set of standards, right? Because this was done in 2012 at a time when there was only this H index was in place, which was proposed by Clarivate Analytics. At that time, it was previously it was Reuter Thompson's Clarivate, and they had to come up with new methods of say calculating these journal metrics. and then they wanted to devise more metrics to provide assessment for the impact of these journals. Right? So if they are, I mean, you don't have to go through all these what I have listed here, but make sure that if the journal is listed under DORA, then you can be certain that their calculation of their matrices are authentic, and you can rely on their numbers, right? And the situation is that now when you have so many matrices, and there will be another company coming in, and they will have another. They will say that there are 14 matrices to assess a journal, and we are lost whether to look for which journal to publish and which metrics to rely on, and they soon add another metrics. That's what has happened nowadays. There are too many metrics that we are lost, and we find it difficult to find which journal to publish based on these metrics. But most applicable metrics are given. I have given. Sorry. The most pertinent one I have given you are the ones that are listed here. But apart from that, nowadays, after this DORA has been published, this SGR or the SciMego Journal Rank Index is becoming popular. This is published by Scopus, where you have the journal ranking based on certain quartiles, Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. Q1 journals are at the top, Q2, then Q3 and Q4. Based on their say they have certain ranking systems to transfer the prestige of between journals, and they have their own algorithms to calculate these journal ranks. And based on the journal ranks, they categorize them into quartiles, right? So just go by their list. You can have, this is the web link is given here. This is their main page. You enter the name of the journal, and it will give you the journal will be listed under this ranking, and see their H index, their SGR ranking, and which quartile that they fall into, and so on. Their total documents, their total citations in the 3 years, 2 years, and in that particular year, and so on. And then this is when you click on the journal, this will, I mean, I have given you part by part. The H index of this particular journal, Journal of Ecology, is 194. It's a very high impact factor, H index. And also they gives you, say, many types of metrics. This is this down here. You have this indication of Q1 here. The SDR, the ranking is given here as 2.19. It's a very high ranking, and it's a Q1 quartile journal, which gives this journal a very high standing, right? So if it is a Q1 journal, it is a good journal to publish. Going away from SJR, there's another metrics called Scopus Indexing, right? You have the Scopus preview here. You type the name of the journal, and it will give you the site score and the highest percentile that it has gained. Now, this particular journal called Journal of Industrial Ecology, it is site score is 12. It is in the 99 percentile. It's the highest percentile. It's the first journal out of 264 journals in the general social sciences. And the third journal is Journal of Ecology that I've been looking for. Site score is 9.9. It's in the 95% percentile, and it's 20. Its rank is 20 out of 482 journals in the plant sciences. So they have a very good standing. So go by the site score and the percentile that they fall into, and then look for a good journal to publish your research, right? So then I have gone into the journal web page, Journal of Ecology. There is their rankings given here. SNIP ranking is given here. In this, and their site score tracker, and the rank and the percentage based on the journals are given here. Right? So you can have a look at these percentages and compare them between the journals to see where this journal stands. And going away from those two, this SGR ranking and the Scopus ranking, there's another ranking called Smart Citation. This is now we are going away from journal rankings. These are article metrics. Now this S-Cite or Smart Citations are becoming popular. They are now your paper is here. You cite a paper based on certain information that are contained in this paper. You mention them in part of your paper, or you support you support your sentences. You support your writing with whatever that is included in these papers. Right? So these are citation categories of citations that you do, rather than just the number of citations that a paper has. It categorizes under different categories, right? Now, for example, this smart citations, they have two types of citations. When the individual citations, individual papers, when the papers cite that particular publication, it gives the number of publications for that number of citations for that particular publication, and the number of supporting statements that have been made in other papers based on that particular publication. Mentioning of that is the description has been interpreted in that particular paper, and then contrasting statements made using that particular citation, particular papers. And there's another section badge that you can claim for a particular citation, particular paper, where your introduction contains so many number of papers, methods contain so many number of papers, results contain so many number of papers, discussion so many number of papers, and the total number of citations in that particular paper. If I give you an example, this is one of the papers that I published. Now, under this publication, this is the citations that I have made. I have referred to 25 papers in 52 statements, right? These are the statements that I made 20, 20, 40, and 50. I don't know, one is missing here, but the introduction I have made 20 statements with certain references. Right? These are the references that I have been using. Now, this particular reference here that I have used have 51 citations, 3 for these supporting statements, 30 mentioning statements, and 0 contrasting statements. By looking at these metrics for this particular reference, you can assess how good that paper is before looking at the paper. So whenever you do a literature review, whenever you want to have the publications, go by these smart citations to see. Now, with compared to this paper has 317 citations, 187 has been cited as mentioning, and 3 as contrasting. So this is a good paper with compared to this. I mean, there can be different focus areas in these 2 papers, but by looking at these individual metrics for this article, it gives this article a certain standing, right? So if you publish papers, you can also assess the standing of your paper by using this smart citation indexes to see, just not by looking at Google Scholar profile to see the number of citations, but it gives you a breakdown of how your paper has been cited. This is called smart citations. Now, going away from smart citations, you have another all-metric this is another alternative metric, which is referred to as all-metric. Now, whenever you want to make your paper more visible, you make use of social media. Right now, here this paper, Stephen Hawking's paper, has 3,743 citations in news articles, blogs, Twitter, Facebook, Wikipedia, Google Plus, Reddit, Q&A, and video. Now, this is another matrix which detects your adoption, or with how many citations that you have in the social media. Right? It gives you, and once it's available in the social media, people have more time to go through the paper and to arouse their interest. Then they might go say follow a link and visit the website and download your paper and read. Right. So as long as your paper has a high visibility, this all metric will provide you these numbers where it has been cited, right? So your aim, if you want to make your platform, your paper more visible, there are things that you can do, but you can track the visibility of your paper in social media using this particular metric, all metric, and the website is given for you. Now, this is one of the papers that I have published. Unfortunately, it has only two in the all metrics. It has been one Twitter and one Facebook page, but it has 130 in Mendeley. So this is in the 43rd percentile, right, out of say, and so, I mean, this web page gives you so much of information about this particular article. It has access to 516 times. It has 114 citations, and in the Web of Science, in cross-reference, it has 122 citations. So this all metric is very useful to see whether the publications are worthwhile looking at. Right, when you have when you are doing a literature review, please make sure that you visit this all metric site and see, and just have a look at these matrices to see whether the publication is cited by many, to see whether it's credible or not. Right. And nowadays you have another metric called Eigen factor and article influence. Article influence is a very important way to see how the article has influenced the thinking pattern of the scientific community. Right. So I'm not going into details of this, but when Eigen factors and article influence course, I have described it here. I don't have much time to go through that. Nature has the highest score of the Eigen factor. It's 1.992. You have to compare the journal that you select with this, because this is at the highest level. And the article influence score, an average article would have a score of 1. If it is below 1, then the influence of that particular article is below average. If it is more than 1, it has a very high impact on the research community. Journal Ecology, for example, has a very high say article influence factor and a very high Eigen factor, right? So these are very high impact journals, right? The high impact is now visible using these. So rather than going for these traditional way of looking at journals, you can make use of these Eigen factor and article influence also, because they are the most trending metrics that nowadays researchers use to pick journals for their publications. Right. To summarize, read the journal's aims and the scope to make sure that your publication matches with their aims and scope, and check whether you can submit an article. Some journals are very restrictive because they don't want you to submit articles. So for example, Nature or Science or anything of that particular level, you have to submit only by invitation. If you want to read more on measuring the research impact, I have given you two journal links. right? So whenever you want to select a journal, you go by the indexing and abstracting. You have to make sure that the journal is indexed and it's properly abstracted, because you want your article to be say circulated widely among the audiences. Then impact that we were just discussing, and the speed at which the publication is being published, and the reach, the number of downloads per article, and so on, right? So index in the publication, this scientific data is a very high standing journal which is published by Nature. And they are, when you go to their website, they give you an idea of which indexes and which abstracting that their journal is listed. Their impact factors are given, right? So whenever you visit the journal web page, please have a look at the indexing and abstracting and their impact factors, right? Journal of Hydrology, the impact factors are given down here, and their abstracting indexing is given here, right? So whenever you note some of these, you know how good they are, right? And open access journals, this is by say, this MDPI. You can look for their journals based on SCI, Science Citation Index Expanded, or Social Science Citation Index, or even ESI, say Emerging Science Citation Indexes, and so on. Then you can choose your journal accordingly. The impact of journals also, you can visit the website, and you have all these matrices listed on the web pages, right? And the time taken to publish a paper, usually these publishers, they provide information. For Nature, it takes 6 days for submission for the editorial decision. Submission to first post review takes 45 days. Submission to accept, it takes 226 days. Right. So now, based on this, you can make decisions if you want to make sure that your article is published fast. Then you can go by these numbers also, right? And also now, if you have difficulties in looking for a journal, or finding a journal, or selecting a journal, I mean, you can visit the journal publishers' web pages. Now, I've given you 2 examples here. If you visit Elsevier, for example, they have a web page dedicated for potential authors, where you can make use of this web page. I've given you the web link here. You enter the proposed title here. You enter the abstract here, and you enter the keywords, and you select your area of research, and then you submit these details, and it will provide you with certain say publications under their umbrella, Elsevier. Now I've entered certain keywords, and I've got now I've just entered only one keyword here, water treatment. And I have entered a small abstract here. I don't have it here, but it gave me a long list of potential journals that I can publish my article. Now, if you have the draft with you, you can enter the title, abstract, keywords, and then look for a journal published by Elsevier, right? So it gives you the name of the journal, its site score, the impact factor, acceptance rate, the time to first decision, time to publication. Based on this list, now this is just a part of the list. There were 14 journals that they suggested, and based on these journals, you can click on these links, and you can visit these journals, and you can select the journal that you want to publish, right? So this is it's very easy. This is very useful for a potential publisher. Now, the second example is given by Willy. They also have their own guidance provided for potential authors, how to find the journal, how to prepare the manuscript, how to submit and do the peer reviewing, the licenses, open access, publication and promotion, and so on. And they have a journal recommendation service also. You submit the journal, and the journal experts analyze it, and they will suggest 2 to 5 journals within their publication domain, right? But this is a paid service that you need to pay, but they will give you a very, somewhat detailed review of your submission. Right now, that is how to choose a journal. Now, making a publication visible and networking. Right, you have to answer these questions first. Understanding your publishing options. Do I want to publish work in a journal of a learned society? If you plan to, if you decide to publish it in a learned society, a journal of a learned society, yes, you have better chances of making the publication visible, because learned societies are already accepted by a wide community, and they are respected journals in those fields. Right? If you go to JC journals, for example, if you go to any journals published by the ICE, if any journals published by say even in Sri Lanka, the journal published by the IESL, right? So if you pick a journal of a learned society, yes, you have a better chance of making it visible. Now there are cases of publishing in open access journals. Yes, if you publish in open access journals, yes, there's a better chance of making it accessible. If you want to publish it rapidly, yes, you don't have to wait until it is published for so many months. And also, if you are ready to share your data, again, you can make sure that your publication is more visible. Very quickly going through it, publishing in a journal of a learned society, yes, you have a high chance of making your publication more visible. Or else, if you plan to publish it in an open access publication, again, your publication will be accessible and will be distributed free of charge for the users, and this open access publishing will make sure that it is widely disseminated, widely distributed among the potential potential publishers, right? Now, the open access publishing is governed by this Directory of Open Access Journals and this OASPA, Open Access Scholarly Publishers Association, and World Association of Medical Editors. Now, you have principles of transparency and best practice in scholarly publishing. If you want to choose any of the journals, please have a look at this document, which I have given you. It's a very descriptive document. It gives you criteria to pick an open access journal, right? Open access journals are say virtually free of charge, but it is sometimes restricted by Creative Commons licenses. These licenses provide certain protection to your intellectual work, right? There are types of licenses available. I have given details here, which I'm not going to go by the descriptions. Right now, there are different types of licenses for attached to open this publication. Even if they are printed forms nowadays, the copyrights plus the intellectual property is reserved by these Creative Commons licenses, right? Now this CC BY is the most liberal. On the other hand, this BY NC ND is the most restrictive, right? In the NSF, we are going by BY ND, where the license permits use, distribution, and reproduction. Commercial and non-commercial use is allowed, provided that the original work is properly cited. But in most of the Elsevier journals, they go by CC BY NC ND. Commercial users are not is prohibited. You can use the publications only for dissemination is possible, but you can change it only for non-commercial purposes only, right? So whenever you want to choose a CC license when you publish, you have to make sure that you go by the requirements of the funding agencies or your university or the research organizations criteria, or you have to go by the suggestions of the journal itself. Now there are I very quickly go through this. Now there are trends in reducing the lead time where you submit the paper, and there will be no formal review process, but they will open the paper for post review, right? Now this F1000 research journal is one of the foremost journals which promotes this. You submit the article, you submit the data for deposition. You have to place your data in a repository, and it is open peer. And first, once you submit the article, there will be a screening process that takes place, and it will be placed for review, and the editors will ask open review from the research community, and the author is encouraged to revise the article later on, right? This is one of the articles that has been published by F1000 research. You can see now here the specialty of this particular journal is that the review process is very transparent. The reviewers' comments are also placed in the journal, and the authors' comments are also placed on the journal for others to see, and others can join in the discussion, and the paper will be continuously revised, right? So this is this version is version 2, peer review 3 approved, 1 approved with reservations. So this keeps on revising, and I mean it will not be frozen on time. Almost all the other journal publications are frozen at the particular publication date. But now the trend is that the papers will be continuously reviewed, or the author can always retract this, can take this out of the domain. But if it is to be kept there, the author and the other contributors have to keep the paper revised continuously. Well, this is the same part, the second part of the paper, and you can see that the review process, the reviewers' comments are also placed. Another very similar process is taken by this ENVRI community, Open Research Europe. Plus one is also the same. You have say post publication reviews. And all these post-publication reviews and all the publications nowadays by major publication organizations, they want the researcher to say deposit your data in data repositories, right? You have to deposit your raw or process data files, software, codes, models, algorithms, protocols, and methods, so that others also can freely use it, right? There are lots of benefits that you can make use of. The biggest benefit is that your data will be used by the others, and your contribution will be credited, and you will have more and more citations from time to time, right? So if you want to make sure that your work is being say to make your research more visible, you have to open your data, share your data freely, right? So these are some of the repositories that you can make use of to deposit your data. And this Mendeley data is very popular among health-related research, natural science-based research, where you can deposit your data so that others can also share. And to make your this is the last part of the presentation, to make your work more visible. Make sure that you have the author identifier in this OCID, the ORCID. Make sure that your profile is up to date in the ORCID. And you always try to share outputs of your research, your papers, your conference posters, presentations with the research communities. Make them freely available without infringing on copyrights and these CC Creative Commons authorities. Always keep your profile up to date online. Make sure that you have online CV updated with your publications, and you can have say links to your publications in your CV, in your list of publications. You can create a Google profile, and Google profile is the single most important step that you can make use of to make your publications more visible, right? And then you have other networks also in Kudos, in ResearchGate, Academia, in Mendeley, LinkedIn. You can have a nice LinkedIn profile, research blogging and science blog. These are all social networking communities where you can publish your research free, and you will have lots of followers of your research. And also you can have these pub-loans, Unpaywall, Impact Story, Get the Research, especially for non-academic research, and Paper Bus. All these also can be made use of to make your research more visible. Right. So you need to have a very clear and a well-phrased title, a clear, concise, well-written abstract, and a well-prepared graphical abstract to make sure that your paper is well received. Right. I have given you the importance of writing a good abstract, which I think I will skip because we don't have much time. And try to have a good graphical abstract so that your graphical abstracts say attracts the curiosity of potential readers, right? And please have a look at these very recent developments on 411, Spark, OpenCon, and Science Center for Open Science, which are upcoming trends in sharing research. To make sure that sharing knowledge is a human right, right? The scientific communities are trying hard to go beyond boundaries, not to make restrictions, restricted access to data, research, and knowledge. They always try, now there's a tendency to make knowledge freely available. Please have a look at these. There's 411, Spark, OpenCon, and Center for Open Science. Please have a look at their websites to see the latest trends. With that, I thank you, everybody. I had to rush through because I miscalculated the time that I wanted to discuss. I took exactly 2 hours of your time. I'm so sorry, Professor Ante, for taking such a long time. Thank you so much for your attention. I don't know whether we have time for a discussion. Professor Ante, it's for you.
Hello, yeah. Thank you very much for your detailed presentation. I am with the opinion that we might not get many questions because the presentation was very informative. Now, I would say like I'm, let's say, mid-career research. I started publishing in 2004, but maybe like at least 50% of the things you explained are new things to me. Thank you very much. You have spent a lot of time in preparing this. Now, directly, without taking much time, let me go for the discussion. Dear participants, if you have any questions, please do raise those now. You may raise your hand or unmute and just let us know what you want to know.
Yeah, so one person has asked for the material. I can share the presentation together with the hyperlinks and the documents. No problem. I can share that as a
I'm not sure whether we have any way to do that, but I assume the recorded video will be put on ISL YouTube. I'll check with Chamila. So in that case, anyone can access your information, right? So maybe that's also good. And thank you very much for your kindness, even preparing to share the PPT. But I'll check with Chamila, the manager publicity. Yeah. I think we can put the presentation, recorded presentation on YouTube.
Yeah, if anybody needs the presentation, you can email me.
Yeah. Yes, good. Yeah, if you have any questions, please ask. Now, I have one question. Yes. Now there's a website challenging these certain publications as, vanity publications, bogus, etc. Are there any legal consequences of naming a particular journal or publisher uh, uh, from a different caliber, not a good one? I was a little surprised to see that there are dedicated websites to safeguard the researchers, but I'm a little worried the legal side of that. What do you think?
I think, yeah, they are suggesting that they are, they have not, for example, this Bears list. I mean, they say, I mean, they specifically say that they have credible evidence that these can be predatory. I mean, they have not called them predatory journals. They call them potentially predatory, and they always caution the authors to make sure that they check before submission. So they have not listed. I mean, they say categorize them as predatory journals. And also for predatory journals, I mean, there's no proper definition as such. I think it's not a, it's a term that we use very without proper definition to it.
Yeah.
And the bias list, it suggests that they're predatory, and they say that it gives caution to the author, the potential authors to make sure that they check the credentials of the journals before submission.
Yes, there's one question. What is your idea on index conferences?
Yeah, index conferences, I think, yeah, I didn't say differentiate between index conferences and index journals, but it goes as the same. Now, if they are, say, if they are indexed in credible indexing platforms, I think whether it's a journal, whether it's a conference or a journal, wouldn't be, there's no difference between the two. Right? Because if, say, for example, there are so many conferences which are indexed in Scopus, like IEEE conferences are mostly indexed in Scopus. Scopus itself has its own credibility. They have set their own standards in recognizing these conferences, right? So they have their long list of say ethical clearances, and they have long lists of conference organizers to oblige with in compliance with the standards. So, say for example, if they are, say, you have to go by the indexing services that these conferences have adopted, right? If they are, say, indexed by Scopus, for example, if the Scopus is a credible source of indexing, then you can assume that the conference itself is credible enough to publish your research. Because you have to go by the DORA that I gave you. The scope and DORA are the two. Declarations that these ethical guidelines have been prepared for conference organizers to oblige with.
Yeah, there are a few questions. When we screen out some journals according to the metrics, how can we choose a particular journal where I can have a chance of publishing? As a young researcher, we often face it. Probably, I think she's asking, the standard of our work versus journal, maybe something like that.
Yeah, I think, for now, even whether you are a young researcher or an experienced researcher, you should have a feeling of the standard of the work that you have done. I don't always say that you have done something below average or anything, but always go by the impact. If you are targeting at very high impact factors, the chances are that without a proper track record of publications, the chances are little less, right? So now it also depends on the urgency and how important for you to get it published. Right? For example, if you are a time-bound researcher, if you are registered for a degree, for example, for an MPhil or a PhD, if you want to graduate on time, you might not target at the highest possible journal, even though that is very prestigious. You have to just check the acceptance rate of that particular journal. If it is say 10% or 15% or 20% acceptance rate means that every 4 articles out of 5 will be sent back to the author. There may be rejection. Only one will be accepted, right? So if you target such very high impact factor journals without realizing the gravity of these high impact factors, then you might be wasting your time. So I would advise you to go for a, not the bottom ones, but somewhere in between. Always you consult your supervisor or your superiors or some experienced researchers in the same field and get ideas. Or else, now what our researcher in Sri Lanka, what we don't do is networking with the others. Now, for example, if you are active in the research gate, for example, you can have a discussion forum, and if you are say, if you need the opinions of the others, you can start a discussion forum highlighting your need, your and they might join in, and they might advise you based on their experiences. Now, these academic forums are, I think, 90% of the participants are very, very open-minded people. That is my experience. So target at somewhere in between, not very high ones, but not very low ones. But
yeah, I have one experience also. I mean, I also happened to submit like Q4 journal because that's what the standard I thought. But you know, believe or not, I happened to get one of the amazing reviews I have ever got. You know, like usually an SCI cited journals, and if the journal is quite old, especially, I mean, don't worry whether it's Q1, Q2, Q3, or Q4, you will get good feedback. And one more thing, one question is asking essential including in a research. Maybe as I see,
I didn't.
yeah. Anuruddha, you may unmute and ask, or you can chat, send through the chat. You want to know what are the essential things that need to consider in a research?
Sir, good evening, sir, and thank you for the what you are taught us today. And sir,
Yes,
my question is, what are the essentials, including means how we can differentiate the projects and the research. And sometimes we might get wrong when we are doing the research. So there might be much.
I had a previous lecture sometimes back. It was conducted jointly with the SLAS and ISL. I was how to conduct. I think the title was how to conduct research. In that, I explained. I tried to explain as much as possible between the differences between the two. Now, the first one is, as I mentioned to you, even in today's presentation, we need to identify a need to conduct the research. You have to look at the past work. You have to review the past literature, for example, and you have to identify a research gap. Right? You need that would give you a basis to identify the research need. Right? But a technical project would be you are trying to apply the existing knowledge to come up with a solution. Say, for example, you have some problem with your say irrigation systems, right? You make use of the already existing knowledge, and you try to provide the solution to the say the leaks in the bund or the water conveyance systems or the gates or whatever it is. So identification of the research need and the research gap and the research need and what you are planning to do to fill this research need is very important in a research work, without which your objectives will not be very clear to the research community, right? But for a technical project, you don't have to, you just highlight the problem. Problem in the sense that why do you need a technical problem? For example, leaking a bund, maybe due to failure of the core of the bund, for example, right? So then you look at what has happened to the bund, and then you provide a technical solution. Now you have to see what has happened to the bund, why the core of the bund has failed, right? It doesn't become a research, but it is a research problem. It's a technical problem. But if you try to look at it in a different way to find out why it has happened, it can be a research as well. So it's, I mean, there's a subtle difference between a technical project and a research project. You have to look at it case by case. But as engineers, I think both are important. You need to have technical research also. I don't know whether it's proper to call it technical research, but that is what the engineers do. They try to find faults with a problem and then try to fix the problems.
Right. So thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
And yeah, any more?
So I have given. Somebody has asked my email address. I have given it before.
Yes. And also you can search online. It's on the chat box. Please check, and you can directly contact Professor Manatunga. I think, as I said, why not many questions is, well, there were many questions, first of all, but the presentation was very informative. I was like even going to suggest you, we should make this available now. Video anyway, we are going to put, even the presentation, if we have any platform, we better to put it. It's so informative. Thank you very much for the hard work. Any more questions, please? Yeah, YouTube channel, IESL, we have a, you just search YouTube by IESL, you'll get it. Most probably, we are gonna put it there, okay?
This, Prasanta, this Darshini, are you there?
Yeah, I asked her to send you an email.
Yeah, please contact me separately.
Yes, I'm there, sir.
Yeah, please contact me separately.
Right, I'll send you an email then.
Yeah, okay.
Your email address. Right,
Yeah,
thank
okay.
you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. In case you happen to have any query of this presentation, or if you need the PPT or whatever, or to know what is the channel, you can always also drop me a message. I'll liaise on behalf of Professor Manatunga. He must be quite busy, right? He should be quite busy. Yeah, my email address also there. Please drop an email if you need anything related to this presentation. Yeah, all good. Thank you very much. And we are very lucky not to have the trade union action today. We were worried that we might need to call this off, but luckily it did not go in that way. Thank you very much again, Professor Manatunga, and thank you everyone who participated and good night to you all.
Thank you, Professor Anthony, for inviting me, and so sorry for taking such a long time. For the
No. It's not long at all. It's very informative, and it's from our side. There's a mistake because the TOR given was too broad. It's good that you completely decided to drop the last one. Perhaps we can have a separate webinar on that too. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Bye.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.